So hey anime fans, their series name is What If Naruto Was in Inuyasha Universe. So let's start the series. Naruto Uzumaki stood on a hill looking down at a random village with a small shard of a jewel in his hand. The village he was looking at wasn't a shinobi village, quite the contrary. Those days had passed. Yes, they'd passed about 1,500 years after he defeated Madara and the other tailed beasts in combat. Of course he had some help which came from the previous Kyuubi. I say previous because as Naruto lay dying from a near-death blow delivered by Madara, the Kyuubi panicked, giving Naruto all of its power. What the fox didn't realize was Naruto already possessed a tail's worth of chakra without its power. When the transformation died down, Naruto stood before Madara, a 10-tailed demon, giving him more than enough power to defeat Madara. It also gave him the chance to restore order to the world by doing one simple thing, which was to leave the world so no one would be tempted to try to use his now great power with the rest of the Bijuu gone. Flashback. Naruto watched from the shadows as 1,500 years passed, and as he watched he noticed two very important things. One, humans slowly but surely lost the ability to use chakra until the time came where they hadn't even heard of it. The second was demons became normal. Most were low-level demons, but demons nonetheless. The low-level ones Naruto allowed the humans to handle themselves, but the ones he thought would cause great damage he dealt with himself. His plan was to destroy the demons, then get out of sight. Unfortunately for him, a group of humans saw and dubbed him Inari, the fox god, because he helped the humans before disappearing. That people began to worship him. The trend continued for 50 years until one day when he went to get some fish from a lake, he was approached by an incredibly beautiful human woman with long black hair that stopped at her lower back. The top half of her body was clad in a grayish battle armor. Finally she wore a long red battle dress. The woman stood in front of Naruto, who simply glanced at her before turning back to the fish he'd caught, causing the woman to scoff in anger at his lack of disrespect. This caused the woman to ignore his incredibly powerful yukai and approach him, then, almost cockily, put her hand on his back, expecting his yukai to purify, only to watch in horror as he simply continued to gather his fish. The woman, seeing something was different about this demon, drew her sword, which was now covered in her purification aura, and sliced at Naruto's head. As she made contact, she noticed her sword didn't even penetrate his long blonde spike hair. The woman, now worried the demon in front of her may be too strong, gathered every bit of her spiritual power and sliced at him one last time. This time she aimed at his neck, piercing it, but not enough to do any real damage. Exhausted, the woman fell to the ground, stunned that she couldn't do anything against the monster that now stood over her. As the thought of death passed through her mind as she lost consciousness. 2 hours later the woman awoke and put a hand to her throbbing head, then noticed that she was lying on something incredibly soft. She also noticed that her armor and clothes had been removed, leaving her exposed. The woman started to sit up until a noise caused her to lay back down and pretend like she was asleep. Once the door opened, she noticed the demon from earlier walking toward her with something in his hand. Afraid he might try to violate her, she started to get up, only to find the demon running something cool and wet over her forehead, which helped her a great deal with her headache. The woman started to relax until her survival training kicked in, causing her to strike at the demon's face with her hand, which didn't faze him in the least. The woman looked the demon in the eyes and realized that he wasn't going to hurt her, which surprised her since her teacher told her that all demons were bad, though the demon in front of her caused her to rethink everything she had learned, only to be broken out of her brainstorming by someone talking to her. "I'm sorry demon, what did you say?" The woman said, looking at it. "Your name, what's your name?" "It's Midoriko." "That's a beautiful name, mine's Naruto, though most humans refer to me as Inari." Hearing what he referred to himself as made her realize exactly why she couldn't defeat him. Even among Miko he was a god, and though they would never want to kill him since he killed other demons, the powerful Mikas did want to have a chance to battle him to see where they measured up. "I'm sorry great Inari-sama, I didn't know it was you. Please don't call me that, call me Naruto." Midoriko nodded excitedly, only to have it turn to nervousness again. Would he decide to kill her for attacking him for the simple fact he was a demon, or would he simply find her too weak to kill? "I see that you are troubled Midoriko, do not worry, I take no offense to you attacking me earlier. To be truthful, I was quite impressed. You are the first demon or human to reach my body in over 500 years. Naruto said, causing Midoriko's eyes to widen in shock and awe at how one being could be so dominant for so long. "Thank you for the compliment Inari, I mean Naruto-sama. You know Midoriko, you could help me out. You see, I have no doubt that you have a powerful teacher, but being that I am a demon I could show you things your teacher couldn't dream of." Midoriko was once again shocked. Not only had she managed to impress a great demon, but she was going to be trained by him as well, though she didn't want to be ungrateful. "I accept your offer, Naruto-sama, but I don't want to be a burden," Midoriko said. Naruto waved her off as he left the room while explaining that her training would begin tomorrow and that she would be wise to get some sleep. The next day before they started, Naruto asked Midoriko what she was doing in an area known for demons, which she explained was the place she decided to begin her journey to slay demons. With that, Naruto showed Midoriko where and how to deal with demons she was drawn to. Causing the young Miko to ask what he meant, Naruto explained that she was drawn to powerful demons while weaker demons are drawn to her. Naruto then showed her how to spot good demons who would mean her no harm. When asked what the difference was, Naruto explained that if she foolishly went after demons who posed no threat to her, she would needlessly be wasting her spiritual powers. He then gave her an example, having her fight a powerful evil demon. Midoriko was able to pull out the victory, though she was very tired. Naruto then picked her up and took her to fight a powerful good demon that was able to defeat Midoriko because of how tired she was. Faced with the logic, Midoriko reluctantly agreed that Naruto was right. Though Naruto knew it would take her some time to be able to recognize between good and evil demons, but she would be able to in time. Year 1. The first year went by slowly, at least that's how Midoriko felt every day, as Naruto had her practice with various different weapons, so should the need ever arise or she found herself with a weapon other than her trusty sword, she wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Once he felt she'd made some, he moved her to what he called sensing training, where he would blindfold Midoriko then attack her while forcing her to rely on her natural Miko powers. At first he would flare his Yukai wildly, making it easy to pick up where he was, but the deeper she got into that training, Naruto would flare his power less and less. At the end of the year, Naruto told Midoriko she had done well and it was time for her test, something that surprised the young Miko. Encouraged by Naruto's praise, Midoriko went with Naruto to the site where the test would take place. When they arrived, Midoriko noticed they were at the base of a mountain that had Yukai coming out of it. Naruto explained to Midoriko as he blindfolded her she would be tested in the 2 subjects she'd learned so far. "But I thought you said that I was doing great," Midoriko wondered out loud, causing her demonic master to smirk at her. "I did, but you need to be tested properly. See, if you simply train with me, your body and mind understand that I'm not going to kill you, but now you will be fighting against demons that will want nothing more than to kill you and devour you for your Miko powers." With that said, Naruto gave her a bow and arrows, then slammed his fist into the side of the mountain, causing hundreds of demons to come out. As the demons exited the mountain, they noticed Midoriko's powerful aura and changed their course, heading right toward her. Midoriko heard a loud boom, then felt a great deal of the Yukai that was in the mountain coming at her. Calmly she sensed where the demons were before shooting them with her arrows. As she continued to destroy the demons, Midoriko felt some of the demons separate from the rest and moved toward her from her left side. Feeling that the demons were coming at her straight on had weakened, she turned her attention to the demons coming from her left. Midoriko easily destroyed a great deal of them, but could feel that a few had somehow gotten away her. Knowing they were now too close to get enough arrows out to kill them, she reached for her sword she kept on her waist, only to find something else. Midoriko panicked slightly as she tried to ID the weapon, only to realize that it was a battle axe, a weapon she'd worked with on the first part of her training. Knowing it was too late to complain, she used the axe to destroy the 5 demons that had gotten away from her earlier. Naruto chuckled as he looked at the exhausted Miko, who collapsed the moment she felt all the demons had been destroyed. With a chuckle, Naruto smiled as he picked the Miko up and carried her back to his home that was hidden by an illusion of a cave. Midoriko awoke several hours later in a daze as she looked around and saw food next to the thing she was lying in that Naruto called a bed. As she ate the food, Midoriko remembered what happened earlier, causing her to stand up, albeit woozily, before walking out of the room to find Naruto sitting on a chair. "Well, hey there, sleepy," Naruto said with a grin from ear to ear. "You switched my sword with a battle axe without my knowledge. Are you trying to get me killed?" Naruto smiled as he put his hands up in surrender. Now you know I wouldn't try to kill you, I just wanted to see how you would react when you were caught off guard, and I must say you handled it magnificently." Midoriko blushed slightly while backing off Naruto and took a seat next to him. "So now what?" "Now we move to the second phase of your training, which will be to strengthen your spiritual energy," Naruto said as Midoriko nodded. Year 2. Naruto explained to Midoriko that in order to strengthen her spiritual power she would need to oppose a force a great deal stronger than herself. Luckily for her, one such force stood before her. Naruto calmly surrounded himself in a tail's worth of power before telling Midoriko she'd have to use a weapon surrounded by her spiritual power to get through his barrier. Midoriko unsheathed her sword, then covered it in her spiritual energy before thrusting it forward only to have it stonewalled by Naruto's Yukai. Midoriko looked at Naruto, who smirked at her as he encouraged her to try again. Naruto laughed as Midoriko sliced at his barrier. He knew she wasn't ready to cut through a tail's worth of power, but that wasn't the point. The point was to see exactly where her spiritual power was, and if he had to be honest, she was stronger than a good deal of demons in this time. The problem was she wasn't even close to purifying Shikaku's power. If he could get her to Nibi's power, she'd be able to take on any demon of this time without any problems. Naruto ordered Midoriko to stop, then had her surround herself with her own spiritual energy. Okay Midoriko, what you're going to do is sit here in this spot until I come for you. At no point should I feel your power waver at all, or you will have failed. Naruto ignored Midoriko's complaining as he headed back to his house, leaving said Miko outside as it started to rain. Naruto smiled as a day went by, and not once had he felt Midoriko's power waver. He could feel her power growing slowly. Figuring she could last 2 days without any food, Naruto watched the Miko from a tree for most of the day. When the second day came around, Naruto could feel Midoriko's power still rising, which confused him. When she attacked him a year ago, he determined her power and she wasn't this strong. What could have changed so much between a year ago and this moment? Once day 3 came, Naruto found himself sitting behind the Miko, whose concentration hadn't faltered in the least. Naruto, I know you're there. Is there something you want? Naruto ignored her, focusing instead on her steadily building power, which had become a great deal stronger in the past 2 days. He estimated that if her power kept building at this rate, she'd have the ability to purify Shikaku's power in 4 more days. He also knew she was doing this with sheer force of will on the count of while he was focusing on her, he could hear her stomach growling. On the 4th day, Naruto came out of his house with some fish, only to find the Miko he'd been training unconscious, probably from the lack of food. As he carried Midoriko back to the house, the thought of how powerful she could be at the end of this year or the next which excited him. It seemed like the only 2 students he'd ever trained were on their way to great things. For the next week, Naruto continued to train Midoriko, and Midoriko continued to get stronger. By the end of the week, Midoriko's spiritual power had become strong enough to purify Shikaku's level of power, which excited Naruto to no end. Once he gave Midoriko a 2-day rest, Naruto had her attempt to break through a barrier of Yukai, only this time he strengthened it to Nibi's level of power. As Naruto watched his student attempt to get through his barrier, he noticed the same type of determination that he possessed back when he was growing up. Midoriko, stop. Said Miko stopped, then watched as her demonic sensei dropped his barrier and walked her over to a pond that was close to the cave. Alright Midoriko, I think you needed a break from physical training. Instead we will focus on your mental training. What do you mean? Midoriko asked as Naruto led her to the edge of the pond, then sat her down. Simple, I want you to sit here and meditate. And this is going to help me how? Simple, you may come up against a demon that won't attack you physically but mentally, and should that day come, you'll need not only a strong body but a strong mind. Seeing that Naruto hadn't steered her wrong yet, Midoriko closed her eyes, never noticing Naruto moving behind and placing his hand over her head. I'm sorry Midoriko, but you'll never realize your full power unless you do this. In Midoriko's mind, the Miko found herself sitting in a beautiful field surrounded by a black sky and clouds that didn't move. Where am I? Your mind, of course, where else would we be? A voice said, causing Midoriko's head to whip around, revealing herself with a smirk standing there. Who are you? Midoriko asked. You know you ask foolish questions, the second Midoriko said as she put her hands on her hips. I'm you, at least the real you keep hidden from the outside world. What do you want? For you to listen to me first is the obvious question. What do you think you're doing? What do you mean? What do I mean? I mean taking advice from that demon. Although handsome, he is still a demon, which means he should be our pet, something for us to show off before taking back home. But Naruto isn't like the other demons we were thought to fear. He kills other demons. The second Midoriko closed the distance between herself and her counterpart, then pinned her on the ground while hissing at her. Take him down, then maybe we can have some fun with him once he's learned his place, of course. What do you mean fun? Midoriko asked. Must I spell it out for you? Catching on to what her counterpart was saying caused the Miko to blush as she began to think about the handsome demon in the way that her other side suggested. No, I can't. That type of behavior is unfit for a Miko such as me. I know that's what makes it exciting, the fact that we shouldn't be doing this, but look around, no one knows where we are, so no would know if we decided to. The second Midoriko said, only to be told no in stern manner by her counterpart. Well, you left me no choice. Midoriko wondered what her counterpart was talking, only to stop when she saw her very own blade above her face. Don't worry, everything will be different when I take over. I'll even let you watch the fun I have with that demon. The second Midoriko said as she brought the sword down, only to be blocked by Midoriko. Kicking her other self off, Midoriko leapt for the blade only to have it stuck in her left shoulder. I have no idea why you are even a Miko. It's clear to me and probably the demon that you have feelings for it, and here I am offering you a change to have it, yet you refuse. Because you're not me and it doesn't matter what you say, Midoriko said as she threw her counterpart to ground after wrestling the sword away from her. I guess you win. The only problem is you can't get rid of me because I'm you, I'm what you want. The second Midoriko said as the original Midoriko drove the sword through her heart, then watched as her evil counterpart turned into some type of red energy and went into her. Midoriko opened her eyes, then looked up to find it was dark outside. Looking around, Midoriko attempted to locate Naruto, but instead found what looked to be an injured two-tailed cat demon limping toward her. Alarmed, the Miko jumped up only to feel a hand on her shoulder. Midoriko turned to see Naruto shaking his head before heading toward the small cat demon, which started to back up only to yelp and fall to the ground. In pain, this is a great chance for you to differentiate between good and evil. Glancing at the small demon, Midoriko approached it, although slowly, before picking it up and examining it to find that it had a hurt leg. Midoriko began to check to see if it was broken, only to interrupted by a large demon jumping out from the trees. You human, give me back my meal and I will consider letting you live. Midoriko looked down at the demon in her arms, then back to Naruto, who smiled at her encouragingly. She then turned around and put the cat demon down before drawing her sword, causing the large demon to roar in laughter only to stop as its head was cut off. Midoriko watched as the demon's now headless body hit the ground before glancing back at her demonic teacher, who was wiping his right hand off, which caused the demon cat, now back in her arms, to meow happily as it brushed against Midoriko's large bust. Well, that was funny, but I think it's time we rest for the evening. Oh, and make sure to bring our new friend, Naruto said as he headed back to the cave with the Miko following. As Midoriko made her way to her room, Naruto asked her to wait while he unsealed something, then gave it her before explaining that it was something for her to sleep since she had been wearing her battle clothes to bed, in which the Miko thanked him for. As she put the demon cat down, said demon cat watched as Midoriko went to her room and waited until she opened the door to her room before darting between the legs of the Miko. While staying out of her view, Midoriko shut the door to her room, then held up the article of clothing Naruto had given her and found it to be quite thin. Deciding Naruto hadn't done anything lewd or perverted since he'd been teaching her, she chose to give him the benefit of the doubt. Midoriko took off her battle armor, then Miko clothes, revealing her naked body before slipping on the thin fabric, which was dark blue in color and came down to her upper thigh. Shocked at how short the piece of clothing was, Midoriko considered taking it off but decided it felt too nice against her skin. Midoriko made her way to her bed before laying down with a sigh. Midoriko let her mind replay some of the events that happened over the past year and a half, along with how far she'd come, at least according to her demonic sensei. The cat demon crawled out from its hiding place 5 minutes after Midoriko went to sleep and looked around before jumping onto the bed, landing next to the head of the sleeping Miko. The demon snuggled against the side of the Miko's head before resting only to get back to its feet moments later. The cat demon moved its way under covers, moving over the large mounds of the Miko, causing her to moan softly as it made its way to her well-toned stomach before circling twice and coming to a rest, enjoying the body heat the Miko was giving off. Over the coming months the training of Midoriko continued, and just as Naruto thought, her power kept increasing almost at an alarming rate. The same could be said for the cat demon, who surprised both Midoriko and Naruto by transforming into a larger version of itself after being enveloped in fire, then ripping a demon who was attacking Midoriko apart. Naruto quickly complimented the demon cat on its disguise before suggesting to Midoriko that she allow the demon cat to accompany her when her training was finished, that way she wouldn't have to use all of her power, something she agreed to, though only after a face licking from the demon cat. As the end of the year approached, Naruto decided it was time for Midoriko to take her second test. So he led her and her new partner to an open field before turning to them. Alright you two, it's time to test your strength, and the best way for me to do this is to fight you myself. Naruto watched as the cat demon transformed to its true form, then commanded the two to attack, which they did. As they attacked, Naruto could already tell what the last part of training would be for Midoriko and her partner. Naruto easily dodged their attacks, frustrating both of them, causing the two to make mistakes which left them open for Naruto to take advantage of. Seeing that they wouldn't be able to touch him anytime soon, Naruto stopped the fight and explained to them the final part of training would be teamwork for both them along with agility training for Midoriko. Midoriko was disappointed that she wasn't able to touch Naruto, but that was replaced by embarrassment along with a blush as Naruto hugged her before explaining that once she was agile enough he might actually have to break a sweat when fighting her, causing Midoriko to hit him in the chest. With that over, the final part of Midoriko's training began, and to be honest it wasn't as bad as the other sessions, except for the fact she was incredibly sore after the first month of training, but Naruto simply explained that she hadn't used those muscles that much. He also told her that it would have been a good idea for her to have listened to him when it came to stretching. That was something she did before every section from then on. Halfway through the third year, Naruto stopped Midoriko's training, explaining to the Miko that there was nothing left for her to learn. Naruto gave her some scrolls he'd made copies of over the years. They included stretching pose and fighting styles he thought she might become comfortable with over time. Midoriko on the other hand couldn't believe this day had finally come. She wanted to tell herself that it wouldn't have any effect on her, but inside she knew that was a lie. The demon she would be leaving tomorrow had done more for her than her own parents. Leaving him was something she couldn't even fathom. Naruto noticed the look on the Miko's face, which made him happy that she'd miss him as much as he was going to miss her, so like any good sensei he decided to tease her about it. "What's with that look, huh, Midoriko? You going to miss me that much?" Midoriko blushed, upset that Naruto was the only being that could make her do that. "Of course I'll miss you. You've taught most of the things that I know, and as a thank you I would like to teach you the arts of a Miko." "I accept, but are you sure it's not deeper than that?" Naruto asked, joking with the Miko. Midoriko stared at Naruto, unsure of what to do. Had he found out how she really felt about him, or was he just joking with her? "Actually it is." Naruto stopped before looking down at the Miko, whose face was now completely red, reminding Naruto of a certain Hyuga. "What do you mean?" Midoriko couldn't take it anymore. Staring into Naruto's big confused blue eyes just caused her to lose control of herself and lunge at him, taking him off feet, then softly putting her lips to his. "Naruto, I know you're a demon and everything in my mind tells me that I should hate you, but my heart tells me that I love you. When you aren't training me you treat me like a normal woman. That's something I haven't been for a long time." "Midoriko, I don't know what to say." Midoriko honestly didn't care if he knew what to say. What she cared about was being treated like a woman, and she had a strong suspicion that Naruto could do it. Leaning in for another kiss, Midoriko ran her hands through Naruto's hair before turning her attention to his whiskers, which she loved and had always wanted to rub. Naruto was completely caught off guard by Midoriko's assault at the beginning, but regained his senses quickly until she began to rub his whiskers the way she was. He knew Midoriko didn't know, but when he became the Kyuubi his whiskers became not only real but incredibly sensitive. As Midoriko continued to rub his whiskers, Naruto could feel his strength leaving as his sex drive rose, until he could no longer take it and pulled the Miko against his chest before vanishing with her in red flames, only to reappear in his bedroom. Midoriko, feeling something odd, pushed off Naruto's chest to find she was in a room that was painted red and had things she'd never seen in it, though she wouldn't get the chance to find what it was because Naruto pushed her onto his bed before continuing their makeout session. Midoriko moaned as ran her hands over Naruto's arms and chest, feeling how solid he was, only to blush as he broke the kiss, then took his shirt and pants off, revealing his muscled body to the Miko, who stared wantonly. Seeing this, Naruto took her hands and placed them on his chest before sliding them slowly toward his rod. Midoriko shivered as her demon lover lowered his tongue, then bucked forward when he licked her outer lips, drawing a yell from the Miko. Since she'd never felt anything like that, the feeling only became more intense as Naruto put his tongue in her, which resulted in her trying to push his head further between her legs. When Midoriko realized she couldn't make Naruto go any faster, she started to buck her hips forward, only to have Naruto grab and hold them in place. Knowing there was nothing she could do, Midoriko's upper body thrashed around the closer she got to her edge. "Please Naruto-kun, go deeper," Midoriko said, only to feel Naruto take his tongue out of her. Thinking she'd done something wrong, Midoriko started to apologize, only to feel the most wonderful thing she'd felt in her life. Naruto smirked. He knew he had her, so he decided to tease her even more and took his tongue out of her in favor of her clit, which earned him a loud yell before being splashed by her juices. As Midoriko recovered, Naruto wiped her essence from his face, then licked it off her lower lips, earning a shiver from her. Naruto quickly moved back over Midoriko so that they were face to face, then kissed her, allowing her to taste herself. Once he was finished, Naruto broke the kiss and laughed as he listened to Midoriko mumble something incoherent. I know you're a Miko and you shouldn't be doing these things, but if you weren't doing this you wouldn't get what I'm about to give to you, Naruto said in between kiss on her jawline. Through half-lidded, Midoriko looked up at Naruto, who was giving her a big comforting smile, only to feel something poking at her entrance. Naruto slowly pushed himself into Midoriko, knowing how painful the first time was until he came to her barrier. Suggesting that she holding on to something, Midoriko grabbed onto Naruto's shoulders. He then counted down and quickly pushed through her, causing her to scream out in pain while wrapping her legs around his waist. A minute later, Midoriko explained that she didn't feel the pain anymore, which was Naruto's cue to start moving, which he did, but started out slowly, allowing Midoriko to soak up all the pleasure she was receiving. About 2 minutes after he first started moving, Midoriko asked him to move faster, which he did. Naruto, it feels so good, I feel so good, no longer do I care if I'm a Miko, just please don't stop. Midoriko yelled, causing Naruto to smile. A moment ago she wasn't supposed to be doing this, but now she didn't care, which made him laugh. Naruto kept thrusting into Midoriko, igniting a fire in her that she'd never felt before. Midoriko attempted to meet his thrusts the best she could. Seeing this made Naruto realize she wanted a more active position, so he rolled them over so that she was on top before nodding at her. Midoriko seemingly got the idea because she started moving her hips back and forth with a little bit of assistance from Naruto. Once she got the hang of it, she began to change it up. At one point she rotated her hips and at others she bounced up and down, causing Naruto rise up only to be pushed back down with her hands on his shoulders. Confused, Naruto noticed the gleam in her eyes and realized that this was her form of payback from what he did to her earlier. He knew that he could always overpower her, but it wouldn't be fair, so like she did, he sat back and allowed her to do what she wanted until he felt himself reaching his peak. Midoriko, wait, stop. Ignoring Naruto, Midoriko experienced her second orgasm, causing her to constrict around Naruto, who could no longer hold it, and let out a batch of semen inside the Miko, who placed a shaky hand on her forehead. Before falling forward unconscious with her demonic lover still inside of her, Naruto sighed as Midoriko moaned and nuzzled his cheek before resting on his chest with a content sigh. Knowing that he could control whether or not Midoriko became pregnant, Naruto decided to leave her the way she was and drifted off to sleep himself, wondering what was going to happen between Midoriko and him. The next day Naruto awoke to find he had morning wood, which wasn't anything out of the ordinary but was different was the black-haired Miko rocking back and forth while running her hands over his chest. Naruto, you're awake. I'm so sorry for being such a lewd woman, but when I woke up I felt you move inside of me. That's when I realized I wanted to remember the feeling from last night. Naruto started to respond but was squeezed by Midoriko's womanhood, resulting in a groan. Midoriko leaned down and kissed Naruto lovingly on the lips before starting to continually rub his whiskers. Naruto realized at that moment he was beat. He'd never had his whiskers rubbed the way Midoriko had done the night before or at that very moment. Midoriko smiled, inwardly happy that she had some type of control over Naruto, even though she would have gladly did this even if his whiskers weren't sensitive. Looking at her lover's face, Midoriko allowed the smile she was wearing to grow bigger before making a move to bounce on Naruto, only to feel him release in her while his rod moved over her G-spot, causing her to come. As well, with a smile, Midoriko shakily placed her arms on Naruto's chest, using them to keep from collapsing on him. Midoriko sighed contently as she got off of Naruto, who got off of the bed and helped her to her feet. Naruto, I've decided that I don't want to leave you even though it's my duty. Naruto sighed. He knew this would come up, especially now that they'd had sex. He wanted Midoriko to know that he didn't want her to leave either. I don't want you to leave either, but you have to. The humans need you. Midoriko stared at Naruto, who was able to use his years of willpower to withstand what he would describe as a puppy dog pout. Realizing she would be able to change his mind, Midoriko suggested that she begin teaching him the art of a Miko while limping noticeably out of the room with her clothes. Naruto simply shook his head. He really didn't want Midoriko to leave, but he did want her to do what she was destined to do. If that meant sacrificing his feelings for her, then so be it. He'd done it many times before. 2 months later, Naruto had learned everything Midoriko could teach him. Midoriko explained that the training would usually take a lot longer, but since he didn't have Miko powers she could only take him so far. Naruto thanked her as she stood in front of him ready to set out on her journey. Once they made sure she had everything, the two stared into each other's eyes before Naruto leaned down to kiss her, only to have her turn her head so that he kissed her on the cheek instead. "I'm sorry Naruto, I just don't want to have any type of contact like that unless we are together, and since that is not the case I think a simple goodbye sensei will do," Midoriko said as she turned and left with the demon cat meowing back at Naruto from Midoriko's shoulders. Knowing how difficult it must have been for Midoriko to spend 2 months with him after they'd made love, he simply waved back to the cat demon who he'd become as fond of as he had of Midoriko. Flashback over. Naruto turned away from the village he was staring at before making his way toward his new destination while looking at the shard in his hand that made him smile. The shard was a part of Midoriko's soul which made him happy to be near it. Naruto heard years after Midoriko left him that she died in a great battle with a lot of demons, which also made having the shard he held hard to look at. He knew that had he just let her stay with him like she wanted, she would still be alive today. That was something he still hadn't gotten over, but he was dealing with it. When he heard of what Midoriko did, he decided to leave the jewel with the humans, seeing as it would have been a constant reminder of his failure. But he vowed should the humans make a mistake with the jewel he'd take it, his guilt be damned. Once demons realized they could use the jewel, more of them went after it, forcing the humans to place in the protection of another Miko he heard was named Kikyu. After checking her out, he found she was strong enough to watch after the jewel. With the jewel under the protection of Kikyu and the youngest child of his first student, he retreated back into the shadows. Until he heard of Kikyu's demise, then the shattering of the jewel, which brought him back to the shard in his hand. It angered him greatly that the humans would let this happen. Naruto knew he wanted to find all of the shards so he could bring Midoriko back to life. The problem was the curse that was said to be upon the jewel. Now Naruto wasn't worried about that, he just wanted an expert, someone who knew the jewel and who better than the originator of the jewel herself. Naruto smirked as he made his way toward his destination, only to stop when he smelt his first student's eldest son and changed course so that they would cross paths. He also disguised his scent so that he wouldn't be avoided. "I'm sure Midoriko won't mind if I take a small detour." Sesshomaru walked toward his destination where an informant was waiting to tell him about Naruto. However, Sesshomaru felt something coming toward him. Something his demon blood was telling him to avoid, though that same blood was telling him that whatever it was he could handle it easily. On the way to see his informant Jaken, his loyal vassal, and never knew how close he'd come to death many times, most of which involved taunting their newest travel companion, a small human girl named Rin. As they traveled, the group came onto a small opening which wouldn't have been anything eventful except there was a figure sitting directly in their path. Normally Sesshomaru would be excited that he could release his frustrations out on whatever was in his way. The three came upon the figure, which was revealed to be a man with spiky blonde hair. One look at the man immediately told Sesshomaru something was off, though it actually startled him that he didn't notice this before. While Sesshomaru tried to make sense of what the man was, the ever-arrogant Jaken approached the path blocker before clearing his throat and addressing the man. "You mortal, you're in my lord's way. If you move now, then he might allow you to leave with most of your body intact." Normally Sesshomaru wouldn't care what Jaken did, as he knew he could easily strike down anyone stupid enough to attack the smart-talking green imp. However, this man was something different. He could feel it. This feeling was made even more apparent when demonic power, the likes of which Sesshomaru hadn't felt since his father, started to leak from the man. Jaken continued to talk even as Rin and An were pushed to the ground by the incredible power the now obvious demon was letting out. Sesshomaru for his part remained stoic on the outside, but on the inside he was incredibly shocked. He knew as a demon lord when a demon was only giving glimpses into the depths of its power, though the fact that this demon stopped right where his father's strongest was made him ponder just how strong the demon which stood in front of him was. "Jaken, that's enough silence," Sesshomaru barked, quieting servant, allowing Jaken to feel the power as well. "Sesshomaru, you have a ways to go until you catch your father in terms of power. I mean, let's be honest, I've heard stories of how you want no crave Tetsuzaiga, yet you already have a perfectly good sword on your hip," the demon said as he stood up, revealing Sesshomaru was slightly taller than him. "How do you know my name, and how do you know of Tetsuzaiga?" "I know a lot, such as Tenseiga wishes to protect you even though it knows you're ashamed of it." Not wanting to be lectured by some possibly old demon, Sesshomaru used his speed to move in front of the demon, then attempted to cut his head off using a side chop, only to have his hand caught in a iron-like grip. Took you a while to get here. I almost had time to relieve myself on that tree. Sesshomaru growled in anger, and if he was truthful about it, embarrassment. He wanted to crush the demon in front of him. The problem was Sesshomaru couldn't get his hand out of the grip of the demon. Even thrashing around, Sesshomaru found he still was unable to get away from the demon holding him. Then without warning the demon let him go, smirking, causing Sesshomaru's cool stare to hold confusion in it. As Sesshomaru planned his next move, his train of thought was cut off suddenly as he saw his Tensiga in the hands of the demon that was now walking away from him. It's a shame you don't remember me, though I know you're interested, so seek out Myoga and or Totosai, they can tell you who I am. Oh, and I'm taking Tensiga with me. I might have use for it unlike you, but once you've done as I've told you I will return it to you. Until then, kiddo, the demon said before vanishing. Angered he was actually made a fool of, Sesshomaru adjusted his course toward where Myoga would be, which just happened to coincide with wherever his brother was. Rin ran over to Sesshomaru asking him if he was hurt, to which the demon ignored her and set out to find the flea. Naruto smirked as he felt Tensiga telling him to return it to Sesshomaru and that it was nice seeing him again, which Naruto agreed to. He then explained he might need its help with something, but promised by the time Sesshomaru had done everything he told him to do he'd return it to the dog demon. Naruto quickly picked up his speed as he ran toward the demon slayer village, where he heard Midoriko's mummified corpse was in a cave. Luckily his speed allowed him to make it to the cave in a half an hour. Upon arriving, Naruto moved through the village taking note of the graves which had been dug. As Naruto came to the end of the village, he noticed a boy with short black hair and a short kimono staring off into space. Naruto was able to tell there was something wrong with the boy other than apparent depression, so he decided to find out what the problem was. Confronting the boy, Naruto was able to tell what was so off about the boy, this being the boy was dead, or at least he should be. The boy noticed Naruto and could tell right away he was a demon. However, he also knew how powerful Naruto really was, since he didn't let his pride get in the way, which is the reason he didn't run, figuring Naruto could easily chase him down. Hey kid, do you know that you're dead? Naruto asked, receiving a nod. Yes. So how are undead? A jewel shard a demon uses to keep me under his control. It also keeps me alive, the boy answered. Naruto looked at the boy and could tell the jewel was located in his back. The wheels in Naruto's brain started turning as he wondered if he should take the jewel shard from the boy. Naruto began not to only to start thinking of how much easier it would be for Midoriko with 2 shards instead of 1, which helped him make his decision. Hey kid, I'm sorry, but I need that jewel shard from you, though this sword can heal, Naruto said as the boy simply looked at him. It doesn't matter, I couldn't stop you even if I wanted to, the boy answered with Naruto nodding. Before we do this, what's your name? Kahaku, and what's yours? I guess you can call me Inari. Kahaku stared at Naruto in shock, giving Naruto the opportunity to pluck the jewel shard from Kahaku's back, killing him. Naruto turned to Tensiga, which agreed and allowed Naruto to bring Kahaku back to life by wielding it. As newly resurrected Kahaku got his wits about him, he remembered what Naruto told him before killing him, which didn't make sense to the boy, as he'd been told Inari was just a myth dreamt up by people who wanted to find good in demons. Kid, I need you to help me with something in the cave just outside your village, Naruto said, pulling Kahaku along with him. As the two entered the cave, Kahaku gulped. He never did like it in there, but he always put on a brave front for his father and sister. Kahaku always felt the cave was judging him, so he kept close to his demon savior until they got Midoriko and the demon's mummified corpses. Naruto sat down in front of Midoriko's corpse. Even though he was upset this happened to her, Naruto couldn't deny how beautiful she looked, even mummified. Naruto gave both jewel shards to Kahaku, then created 10 clones, which scared the hell out of Kahaku. Naruto then created a clone he'd been working on for over 500 years. The clone was blank. Nor wasn't in the shape of a man or woman, it was simply white. Naruto directed his clones to form a chain from Midoriko's corpse to the clone. This would allow the Miko's power which remained in her mummified body to be transferred to the clone. Once this was finished, Naruto took the jewel shards from Kahaku before using his Miko lessons to separate Midoriko's soul from the shards. As Naruto held Midoriko's soul in his hand, he couldn't help but smile before placing it into the clone, which immediately began to shake violently as it took form. After 5 minutes of shaking, a bright light burst from the clone, enveloping the cave, temporarily blinding Kahaku and Naruto. When it died down, Naruto opened his eyes only to be knocked to the cave floor by a sudden pressure in his chest, which oddly enough was tightly wrapped around him. Kahaku opened his eyes, which weren't in as bad a shape as Naruto's were because he happened to be standing behind the demon when the light began shining. Looking around, Kahaku was unable to find Naruto until Amon directed his attention to the ground. There Kahaku saw the great Inari moaning in pleasure as a naked black-haired woman rubbed his cheek with one hand, while the other found its way into his pants. Blushing, Kahaku watched as Naruto was able to gain control of the woman. He then directed Kahaku to see if there were any clothes in the village which fit Midoriko. Once Kahaku left, Midoriko stood unashamed to show her nude self in front of her demonic teacher and lover. Naruto, what happened? Where am I? Midoriko asked while Naruto simply looked at her sadly. Don't you remember? Naruto questioned back to watch his student and lover responded with a no. Midoriko, in your last battle you were attacked by a great number of demons. You fought for 7 days and nights. Eventually a demon created from a man who desired you locked you in its jaws. Seeing that you wouldn't be able to escape, you forced your soul along with the demon's soul out of your body. However, in doing so your souls created the Shurikon no Tama. As Naruto explained Midoriko, he turned her around, allowing her to see the corpse of herself and the demon which was wrapped around her. Midoriko looked at herself as flashes of the battle came rushing back to her, along with pictures of a man who asked for her hand in marriage only to have to fight him off when she told him she was in love with someone else. Soon Midoriko suffered from information overload and fainted into the waiting arms of Naruto, who sighed as he made his way out of the cave. Stepping out of the cave, Naruto found Kahaku waving a kimono overhead, which Naruto told him to hold onto as the two made their way back to the village with Sesshomaru. In the time it had taken Naruto to handle his with Midoriko, Sesshomaru had tracked down Inuyasha by leaving Rin and Jaken behind. Sesshomaru scowled at his brother while said brother and his friends had drawn their weapons, further angering Sesshomaru. Inuyasha, I'm not in the mood to play with you today. Tell me the whereabouts of your flea friend. Sesshomaru growled, which frightened Inuyasha on the inside as he'd rarely seen his brother so angry. And what if I don't feel like telling you where he is? Inuyasha questioned. Inuyasha didn't have to wait long for a response, as the moment the last word left his mouth Sesshomaru was holding him by his throat off the ground. Miroku and Sango moved to attack Sesshomaru only to have Myoga come out of his hiding place of Kagome's hair, saving Inuyasha. Noticing the flea, Sesshomaru directed his attention to Myoga, who was surprised Sesshomaru wanted to speak with him as they'd never seen eye to eye. A blonde-haired demon crossed me and took Tenseiga from me. He said he would return the sword when I sought you out to find out his identity, Sesshomaru said, dropping Inuyasha. Understandably, Sesshomaru, I am unable to draw a conclusion from that description, Myoga answered, causing Sesshomaru to mumble something. He was faster than me, far faster, and his power was greater than my father's, far greater. Impossible, it can't be the demon I'm thinking of. He disappeared years ago. However, he was the only demon far stronger than your father. What, a demon stronger than my old man? Inuyasha said. Have any of you heard of Inari? Myoga asked. There is no such thing as Inari, it's something people made up hopefully to find good within demons. Sango said quite bitterly, causing the group to look at her except for Sesshomaru, who didn't care one bit if the demon slayer liked him. No, Sango, you're wrong, he is real. Myself and Totosai have met him, us two being some of the few that have. The others are Sesshomaru's mother, Inu no Teisho, Midoriko, and Rukutsusei. Who's Rukutsusei? Shippo asked. The demon responsible for the death of Sesshomaru and Inuyasha's father as a result of the wounds he inflicted. Anyway, the reason your father was so powerful was because Inari was his sensei, Myoga said, hoping to get back on track. Humans have referred to Inari as simply God. Some call him the god of patience, as he only appears when he believes it's for the good of everyone. Others call him the god of war because of his fighting abilities and power. And finally, many women call him the god of love, as they claim to have been taken by him, spoiling them badly. Whatever you call him, he is by far the strongest demon I've ever met, Sesshomaru, and challenging him would only get you killed. Sesshomaru, who had been looking at the sky, turned to Myoga, who quickly hid behind Kagome's neck. Angered, there was a demon far more powerful than himself. Sesshomaru walked away from the group with one thought in mind, which was to challenge and fight Inari. Sesshomaru inwardly smirked as he thought about defeating the demon who trained his father, though he wondered why this demon had met his mother and why she'd never mentioned it. The group watched as Sesshomaru disappeared before turning to Myoga, who cleared his throat. It's a shame he left before I could tell him about Inari's true form. Myoga, why would Inari appear after all this time? Miroku asked. That's exactly what I'm wondering myself. Inari has always been a demon that didn't like to interfere in the matters of humanity unless it was too big for them to handle, so I wonder what could force him to come out. Myoga wondered out loud as he jumped off Kagome's shoulder. Hey Myoga, where do you think you're going? Inuyasha yelled to the flea. Maybe he's going to find Inari. You know he's a fox just like me and we foxes have to stick together. Shippo yelled Inuyasha's shoulder. I'm with Sango on this one. Inari is just a legend, he ain't real and he most certainly did not train my father, Inuyasha replied with Sango agreeing with him. Well, something happened with Sesshomaru. I mean, there aren't many demons that are faster than him, are there? Kagome asked. So my uptight brother finally found someone faster than him and wants to whine about it. Who cares, we got to search for Naruto, Inuyasha said. With Naruto? The half-demon frowned as he felt the connection between himself and Kahaku vanish in an instant as though there'd never been one, thus angering him as he no longer had any torture and, more important to him, leverage to hold in front of Inuyasha's group just in case a plan should backfire. However, right now that wasn't bothering him. What was bothering him happened to be the large demonic aura he felt with Sesshomaru. The other problem he was facing was just as quick as it appeared it was gone, which didn't make sense for something as powerful as he felt to be able to hide its power so easily. Naruto decided to find out what the source of the power was so he could possibly contact it before any of his enemies could. Quickly Naruto summoned Kagura, who began to give him lip, that is until she felt her heart being squeezed, effectively shutting her up. Listen to me Kagura, you've felt that powerful demonic aura. Yes, I have. I want you to find it and offer it an olive branch. However, even if whatever it is accepts, I want you to gather every single thing you can on it, especially weaknesses. Oh, and should you fail me again Kagura. Naruto squeezed her heart one more agonizing time before dismissing her. As Kagura left, Naruto turned to his right to see Kanna and Hakadoshi standing, the latter shaking his head at the idea of sending Kagura out to do the mission. Knowing what Hakadoshi was thinking, Naruto explained Kagura was perfect as she was the only one who could get close enough to this supposed demon if it didn't want to be on his side, since she didn't trust him. Naruto watched as the Seimyosho appeared to his left. He then instructed them to follow Kagura, but to make sure they stayed out of sight. Naruto through the eyes of the Seimyosho. I can show you using my mirror what exactly that demonic aura came from. Kanna then turned her attention to the mirror which was showing the Seimyosho saw. Hakadoshi, the reason I've called you here is to find out what you're going to do with Kikyo. Naruto glanced at Hakadoshi, whose attention was on Kanna. Seeing this, Naruto dismissed Kanna, though not before telling her that if anything came up about that demonic aura she was to return to him immediately no matter what. Once Kanna was gone, Naruto turned back to Hakadoshi. Well, I've been unable to find her. It seems as though she's always one step ahead of me. Hakadoshi, I want Kikyo destroyed. She's more dangerous than Inuyasha or anyone in his group. Now go. Naruto's voice boomed through the castle as Hakadoshi took his leave. When Naruto felt he was alone again, began to turn his attention toward the few remaining jewel shards, specifically the toughest, which would be Koga's, though he had a thought on how to deal with the wolf demon. With Naruto. 2 hours went by since Midoriko passed out from the information she received, which made Naruto feel awful. Had he known she wouldn't come back, well, he would have slowly given her the information. However, he realized what's done is done. Naruto decided to let his Miko rest while he and Kahaku talked about certain things. Kahaku, what are your plans now that you're alive and free again? Actually, Inari-sama, there's this half-demon who has a knack for ruining the lives of everyone he comes in contact with. In fact, he's the one who had control over me before you came along. I plan to destroy him. Kahaku stared at the ground sadly as he thought about the pain he'd caused his sister. Because of this, he still wouldn't be able to face her until he killed Naruto. That's a shame. I just want to know then, before we part ways, if you happen to know of anyone that has a lot of jewel shards, Naruto asked, causing Kahaku to look up. The demon who was controlling me, Naruto does. He almost has all of the shards. If you want them, you'll have to kill him, though many have tried, none have succeeded, Kahaku mentioned. Naruto looked at Kahaku before pulling him to his feet and giving him a once-over. Kahaku wanted to move away, but the clawed hand of the demon he was talking to held him in place. Say kid, since it seems we are going to run into the same demon, why don't you travel with me and my friend? You mean Priestess Midoriko? Yeah, see, I have no doubt Midoriko will be able to sense the jewel shards. However, it's always wise to have some intel on a potential opponent. Kahaku turned to Naruto with a straight look on his face, though Naruto could tell there was a lot of determination in his eyes. If I help you, can you promise me that you'll kill Naruto even if you get the jewel beforehand? Naruto smiled. The kid was actually blackmailing him, though he liked it, as it brought Naruto back to his youth when you used to blackmail the old man by threatening to reveal his pervy book collection unless he let him off without any punishment for his pranks. Naruto held out his hand with a smirk which rivaled his young friend's. You got a deal. The two continued to talk about random things that didn't have to deal with the jewel shard or Naruto for about 3 more minutes. At this time Midoriko came stumbling out of the house, apparently still having trouble getting used to walking as she found herself in her demonic lover's arms again. Midoriko ignored the suggestion of getting some more rest, stating she wasn't tired anymore while leaning against Naruto. Accepting her answer, the group left the village while Kahaku apologized for not having anything other than a sleeping kimono which Naruto had put on Midoriko when he got her back to the hut. So Midoriko, I was hoping you could lead us to the jewel shards since you're a Miko and it's your soul, it should be basically finding yourself, Naruto explained, only to be hit softly over the top of the head. Of course, in fact I sense two moving quite fast to the south. I'm not sure someone as old as you can catch up to them. Quickly Naruto scooped up Kahaku and tossed him on his back while picking Midoriko up bridal style. Naruto then made his way toward the jewel shard, surprising Midoriko at how fast he was moving, as this was the first time he'd ever held her while running. As Naruto ran, he began to pick up many different scents. One obviously belonged to Sesshomaru, though it was quite a distance off. The second scent he caught was a bunch of wolves which became stronger as he followed Midoriko's directions. The final scent came from someone unknown to him, but whoever it was seemed to move with the wind extremely well. Naruto knew once he caught up to the jewel shards that Sesshomaru along with the unknown scent would be able to catch him. He just hoped that Sesshomaru would better learn to appreciate his sword if he got it back. Midoriko yelled for Naruto to make a quick turn while maintaining the speed he was at. Apparently running for the past 15 minutes at the speed he was going caught them up with the jewel shards. Midoriko told Naruto to stop as the jewel shards were in the general area, so Naruto let Kahaku down, who wobbled slightly while Naruto headed to a lake where the jewel shards were. Once he was close enough, Naruto could tell a jewel shard each were in the legs of a wolf demon who was wearing a sword on his left hip. Naruto noticed there were 2 other wolf demons with the target, though that didn't interest him. He just wanted to know what abilities the jewel shards gave the wolf demon. Deciding he wasn't going to find out by just watching the wolf, Naruto jumped from the behind the tree, gaining the attention of his target along with, "Hey, who are you and what do you want?" The wolf demon with a mohawk stated. Naruto looked up. He knew it would be night in a couple of hours, so he decided it would be best not to beat around the bush. "I'm going to need the shards from you. The name's Koga, I'm the leader of the wolf demon tribe and I've sort of become attached to the jewel shards." Koga smirked, unable to feel the aura of the being standing in front of him. Surprised a human would actually demand something from a demon like him, though it seemed like that's what was happening as he was unable to sense any demonic aura on the human in front of him. "Listen, either you give me the jewel shards or I'll have to take them from you while your friends watch. Make a choice." Koga looked at both his travel companions before the 3 burst out laughing. Meanwhile, behind the tree, Midoriko was becoming quite upset. One, she didn't like the fact Naruto was taking so long. Second, she didn't like the fact Naruto was being laughed at even if he could take the 3 down whenever he chose to. "Okay, I see you are choosing the hard way." Smirking, Naruto slowly began to allow his aura to be felt, causing the 3 laughing wolf demons to stare with fear and shock. "Jinta. Hakaku, this guy is dangerous, it's time to go now." Naruto watched as the 2 now identified as Jinta and Hakaku took off running. Naruto, however, kept his attention focused on Koga, who'd already taken off running at his fastest speed. As Koga tried to get away, he soon found out Naruto was able to run stride for stride with him, which said Fox Demon was doing on Koga's right side. Shocked again by Naruto caused Koga to stop running before watching a small smirk appear on Naruto's face. Koga's instincts flared up, telling him to move away from Koga, however found himself unable to go anywhere because of a substantial amount of pain shot from his stomach to the rest of his body. Looking down, Koga found Naruto's knee in his stomach, which forced him to drop to a knee as he wondered why the pain wasn't subsiding. Naruto smiled, proud of himself for remembering where pressure points on a body still were even after all the years of not having to use the knowledge. Midoriko and Kahaku came out from behind the tress with Midoriko, who was unimpressed as she knew her lover was far stronger than this. Kahaku, on the other hand, was completely impressed. Had he remembered correctly, Koga was a demon that gave Naruto problems, and here Inari just put him down easily. As Naruto bent down to take the shards out of Koga's legs, he heard yelling from his right, causing him to stand up and catch the returning Jinta and Hakaku by their feet, mentally chuckling at their attempt to kick him with. Naruto simply tossed the two through some trees with enough force to knock them unconscious before looking toward Koga's legs and placing his hand right over the spots where the jewel shards were. Naruto then plunged his fingers into Koga's shins, retrieving the shards. Naruto healed Koga's legs afterwards, though left him temporarily paralyzed, so if he tried to come after them he'd be behind and at a bad disadvantage without his shards. Naruto tossed the shards to Midoriko, who caught them. The group then turned to leave, only to into Sesshomaru, who was staring at Naruto. Sesshomaru glanced at Midoriko and Kahaku for a moment before turning his attention back to Naruto, who he noticed was wearing Tenseiga as though it belonged to him. "I heard that you taught my father." Sesshomaru knew what the flea said was right, he just wanted to hear it from Naruto himself. "I did. Your father was a good student, hard-headed though. Had he listened to me about Rokutsusei, I'm sure he would be alive today." "I see, so you know me through my father." Sesshomaru was glad he could put the pieces together about Inari. "Actually, I was there when you were born, that's how I know you. You were a feisty pup, I'll tell you that much. Curious too, also not as mean looking." Sesshomaru stared at Naruto in shock. He had no idea the demon had witnessed his birth, mostly because he didn't think his mother would allow such a thing. As Sesshomaru stood in thought, Naruto took Tenseiga from his side. The pulsating of said sword brought Sesshomaru out of his musing. "Well kiddo, you came for your sword, right? No matter, what you saw earlier was nothing. I can't call upon my true power like this. However, I'll be greater than my father by showing you my true power and perhaps my true form." Naruto smirked at Sesshomaru, who Naruto could tell was unpleased with the fact the threat of his true power didn't faze the demon. Sesshomaru flashed in front of Naruto, resulting in the blonde demon feigning mock surprising on his face. Sesshomaru aimed his poisoned claws at Naruto, who vanished 10 yards to Sesshomaru's left in hopes of drawing the dog demon away from everyone in the area. Midoriko watched as Naruto continued to move away from Sesshomaru. Worried, the Miko began to make her way toward the two, only to be stopped by a look from Naruto. Sesshomaru growled. For the first time in a long time he knew he wasn't helpless, but transforming into his true form in order to beat the demon in front of him would be acknowledging the power of his opponent. Sesshomaru again went to attack Naruto with his poison claws, only to be slapped playfully in the back of the head. Unable to believe what just happened, Sesshomaru stood in shock. Neither his mother nor father had ever slapped him like that. Truly enraged, Sesshomaru turned to Naruto, eyes glowing blood red, while his demonic aura increased dramatically, causing Naruto to smile before taking off with Sesshomaru right behind him. 5 minutes of running, Naruto stopped. Impressed Sesshomaru was able to keep up with him while he ran at half speed. Sesshomaru was suddenly surrounded by a pink aura which expanded as he began growing larger. Once the aura dissipated, Naruto stared up at Sesshomaru's true form, which reminded him a lot of his student, only smaller. Naruto flipped out of harm's way as Sesshomaru brought his paw down on the area where Naruto was. "I wonder if you're as powerful as you claim. Why are you missing an arm?" Sesshomaru barked twice, allowing drool to hit the ground, causing Naruto to jump away when he saw how the earth melted when the saliva touched it. Naruto continued to back away as he felt that his body was start numb as he breathed in the miasma from Sesshomaru's saliva. Luckily for Naruto, he'd faced Sesshomaru's father centuries earlier, so fighting Sesshomaru in this form wouldn't be too hard. As Naruto used his demonic aura to block a Sesshomaru attack, he smiled. What Sesshomaru didn't understand was he'd done the same thing with Inu no Taisho when they first met. Naruto jumped toward Sesshomaru, kicking him in the snout, causing him to roar in anger before catching the falling Naruto under his paw and slamming him under his full weight. Back with Midoriko, Kahaku, Koga, and his two vassals, the five watched as Sesshomaru barked and roared while chasing what they assumed to be Naruto around, causing Koga to growl. Koga began to regain the feeling in his body. He'd never liked dogs, even less since Inuyasha was standing between him and his woman. Now he was confronted by a dog demon who he knew was some relation to the mange mutt. Enraged with Sesshomaru's true form along with his earlier humiliation, Koga began to rise to his feet, only to be touched on the back by Midoriko, paralyzing him again. "Who are you? How are you able to do this?" Koga growled as he stared at Midoriko, who was looking toward Sesshomaru. "Who I am is of no concern to you, demon. Just know if I wished to, I could purify you easily." Koga scowled as he lay on the ground helpless at the feet of the obviously powerful Miko. However, there was one thing that bothered him, and since he was unable to go anywhere, he decided it would be best to try to get some info out of her. I can tell you're a Miko, so you don't like demons, yet you're traveling with a demon. Midoriko simply glanced at Koga, then slowly moved toward the area where Sesshomaru and Naruto were fighting, with Kahaku following behind her. Kahaku knew he didn't have to protect Midoriko as he knew a great deal about her, however he felt he owed it to Naruto, who'd saved him without any conditions. Speaking of Naruto, said demon was having the time of his life. Knowing Sesshomaru didn't have the power to kill him, he played with the large dog, acting as though Sesshomaru was close to killing him, only to use his speed to avoid him. Naruto did have to control his anger, as there were times Sesshomaru was able to hit Naruto, which wouldn't have been so bad. The problem was Sesshomaru's demonic aura would slash at him, and with his concentration on not being crushed by Sesshomaru, said demon's power was able to get to him. After 35 minutes of fighting, Naruto had seen everything he needed from Sesshomaru, but every time he tried to ditch the dog demon he was sniffed out. After another 10 minutes of trying to get away from Sesshomaru without hurting him, Naruto only had deep gashes on his body for his trouble. Realizing Sesshomaru wasn't going to let him go anywhere as long as he could still fight, Naruto decided to do the only thing he could do. Naruto faced Sesshomaru, who was still trying to use the miasma from his saliva to paralyze Naruto, only to stop as a great deal of demonic energy was unleashed from Naruto, whose eyes were glowing dark blue.